You talked about Whiplash that came from a short movie that you also produced, which is odd for you because it's like you did just 2 short movies in your career. The one was Whiplash, and it's not even an horror. But
did you know what the other one is?
Yeah, I've read what is, but I haven't.
Baggage. It's called Baggage.
Like your second production.
Terrible.
But at least Whiplash is very good.
Whiplash is 1 and 2.
Yeah, as you said. But then you also made another movie from a short, which is Oculus. You didn't make a short about you the movie. And what was the story from? You see the short, you wanted, or you see the script, you wanted to do it. What was the
different on everyone on Whiplash or Oculus?
Oculus.
Oculus, I did nothing to do with the short. Oculus, and I had nothing to do with making the movie. I saw the movie when it was finished at Toronto, and I loved it. And it was questionable if it was going to get any kind of meaningful distribution. And a distributor expressed interest, subject to me coming on board and getting behind it and help to sell it. And I agreed to do that because I loved the movie. And I was very glad that I did. It wasn't a big commercial success in the U.S. It did fine, but it wasn't a big commercial success. But the writer-director, who's a guy named Mike Flanagan, is one of the most talented guys I've ever worked with.
Definitely. Yeah.
He's amazing.
And he comes from editing, and you see that in the movie. It's incredible.
Amazing.
Planning to work with him, and
I want to do everything he does. He's amazing. We work with, I tell the directors have a lot more creative control on our movies than typical Hollywood movies. It's much more of like a European system. And so casting is up to them. And I tell the directors, and again, this is all because the movies are inexpensive. We don't finance the movies around movie stars. It doesn't matter if they're famous or not. So I tell the directors to pretend they're in college and they're casting a play and choose the people who are right for the part. And if they're famous, we've paid enough famous people that they've made good money that 9 times out of 10 I can make a deal and get them in the movie. And if they're not famous, we'll cast them too. So in Sinister, Ethan Hawke was famous, and his wife in the movie was Mark Rylance's daughter, Juliette Rylance, and she'd never done a movie before. So so that's how we did that. We don't decide to cast people because they are or aren't famous. Well, we have it. When I started doing it, it was much harder. But we've had very commercially successful movies and have paid out millions of dollars to Patrick Wilson, to Rose Byrne, to Ethan Hawke, and that news travels fast in Hollywood. So as soon as you actually do that, now we have John Travolta started a Western for us 2 days ago, and he's working for nothing for $10,000, which is scale. And J-Lo did a movie for us the same way. Jennifer Lopez has a movie that we finished that comes out in January for the same way. So everyone says they'll do it, but if it actually works, then the agents and lawyers will let their clients give it a try. It's almost like 2 different businesses, low budget and high budget. Low budget is fast. The scripts are much shorter. It's much more fluid, and there's much more freedom, and it's really one person making the decisions. There are no special effects, there are no stunts, there's no fires. Whereas big movies is many hundreds and sometimes thousands of people. So it's a producer's job on Transformers versus my job. It's almost like different businesses. And I would be terrible at producing a big budget movie, and I don't want to either.
I really liked the first 2 Insidious.
Oh, good.
And I want to ask you, what do you think about a third chapter without James Wan as the director?
Well, I wanted James to direct. I tried to talk him into directing, and he was too busy with Fast and Furious. But I'm hopeful, and I'm hopeful that Lee, who was very involved, he obviously wrote 1 and 2, and he was very involved in the production of 1 and 2 because he was in them. Excuse me. So he was on the set most of the time. I'm hopeful that he will kind of carry on the language of the franchise the way James would. Also, James is producing the movie, so James is a hands-on producer. So hopefully, Insidious 3 won't disappoint. But of course, we tried to get James and we couldn't.
Nei progetti che deve realizzare non ci sono solamente horror, l'ha già detto, però ce n'è uno che è veramente particolare, sono gemme e holograms. Perché?
So when we sit with a director, we actually say we're looking for low budget, high concept movies. 90% of the time, those are horror movies, but every so often we hear an idea that you could make inexpensively that would merit a broad, wide release. And Gem and the Holograms, because it was a very strong brand, fit that description. And it was the second movie we made with Hasbro. We made Ouija with Hasbro, which was a brand, which was in development for $110 million, and we made it for $5 million. And so Gem and the Holograms came to us through Hasbro again, as like, it was in development as a much more expensive movie, and they said, can you try and make it inexpensively? So I liked the challenge of that. I was really impressed with John Chu, who was insanely passionate about Gem and the Holograms, and I wanted to try and I'd like to try and see if we can use our model for different genres. I don't want to not make scary movies. Like, I want to make mostly scary movies for many years to come. I hope I get to, but if the model works for another genre, I think it's interesting to try it. Definitely Hitchcock's movies. I mean, I love almost every one of his movies. I really loved Rebecca, but he is like the master of, scaring people in a very classy, skillful way. And if I ever make a movie 1/4 as good as any of his movies, I'd be very excited. Yeah, I want to remake Lake Mungo. It's an Australian movie, which I'd really love to remake. And I don't have any ethical or moral issues with remaking movies. I think it's completely silly to think that's bad. I think there are certain remakes that are awful, and I think certain remakes are fantastic, just like the original movies. So I don't think that there's some sacrilegious thing about remaking movies. Just like I don't think it's bad to make movies from books. Some movies from books have been incredible, like the Harry Potter movies, and some movies from books have been terrible. So I don't think that there's I'm not dogmatic about that. All right.